Boom, and welcome back to another episode of Seminoles Sideline 365. Just coming to you with some updates and commentary on the denial of Darrell Jackson's hardship waiver from the NCAA. I'm just going to kind of group that into Tez Walker's announcement of his denial of hardship waiver because they're both from the ACC. They both have very similar circumstances as to the denial of their waivers. If you're not familiar, Tez Walker is another potential impact player in the ACC, transferring to UNC. He's regarded as a top 50 potential player in the NCAA, potentially in the NFL from scout perspectives. 1,000-yard receiver, close to a 1,000-yard receiver coming from Kent State. He actually started his career, I believe, at Eastern. He started at Eastern Tennessee, and then he got hurt, so he actually moved back to his enrollment date. So he didn't actually enroll there. Then went to NC Central. COVID happened, so he didn't actually get to play there. So he didn't have a season. Then he ended up at Kent State for 2 seasons, where he broke out. And then their coaching staff, their head coach, actually left for Colorado, I believe. And then his position coach actually left as well this past season. So he was kind of left with no existing coaches who brought him there. And then at the same time, his grandmother was ill, and he's originally from Charlotte. So he said, okay, well, this is what the portal's for, right? Getting closer to home, getting to a program that's, in my home, closer to my hometown, and I can be closer to my alien family member, whom his grandmother, helped raise him, as he said, and he'd like to be closer to her, and so she can be closer to him and come to his games potentially. So he transferred to UNC and put in that waiver that he thought would be cleared because this is literally, he only played for one school. A little bit of different circumstances for Darrell Jackson, as you may know, went to Maryland, transferred to then Miami, and then due to the circumstances with his mother, I believe, he put in that waiver to move to Tallahassee because, as you know, Tallahassee and Miami are nowhere close to each other. He could get closer to home, be within, I believe, 30, 45 minutes of home, be closer to his alien mother as well. So similar, but a little bit different. But you would think if Tez Walker's scenario did not get approved, then Darrell Jackson's definitely was not going to get approved. And that's what it ended up being. Tez Walker's NCAA did not approve Tez Walker's, which seemed like a clear-cut case of approval. And then Darrell Jackson's did not get approved either. Makes the NCAA look absolutely asinine in their decision-making. Would seemingly denying 2 clear-cut cases of kids trying to get closer to their family members who are ailing. In Tez's defense, he's literally only played for one school in his career, which is Kent State. The other scenarios, he literally was injured, couldn't enroll. The other school in NC Central, COVID year, literally couldn't play. So both schools he couldn't play at. And then the last Kent State spent 2 years. And then his coaching staff left, and he wanted to get closer to an alien family member, which is UNC. So you would think that's kind of dry with Darrell Jackson. A little bit more circumstances, but still, you've seen hardship waivers in the past get approved, and let's look at those. What are those historical decisions that are those inconsistencies with the NCAA? Let's look at Tate Martell pre-portal when hardship waivers were almost impossible to get if you're an undergraduate. He's at Ohio State, top recruit, loses out in his starting position, doesn't get it. His first year, it doesn't look good. So second year, he decides, I want to go to Miami and I want to compete there for a starting role. Okay. No extenuating circumstances other than literally he's not a starter, and NCAA grants it. There was literally that I can find why he should have been granted a hardship waiver. But he gets it. Immediate eligibility, he's available at Miami. Check. I think if we're looking at hardship waivers in circumstances, I think both Tez Walker and Darrell Jackson have more checks in their box than Tate Martell had at that time. But once again, we don't know the NCAA's criteria. Another example, Justin Fields. Now his I could give a little bit more checks in his box. But he's at Georgia, once again a highly regarded recruit, loses out to I believe it was Fromm in this position. He's also playing baseball there. There's an incident on the baseball field. It creates a kind of, he feels uncomfortable with some of the words said on there. There could have been some racist language used. That's what the articles say. And he feels uncomfortable, and he puts in a waiver because he doesn't feel uncomfortable with the baseball career, which I can totally understand. And he gets immediate eligibility. Yeah, I totally understand that circumstance. But once again, you feel uncomfortable playing in that program, in the baseball program, so he gets immediate eligibility with the football program. Okay, I get it. We're talking about two kids who are trying to travel to get closer to potentially sick, potentially maybe dying family members. They want to get closer to home. Get denied as well. And I'm not blaming the kid, Tate Martell, Justin Fields. I'm not blaming those kids for getting accepted. They put in their paperwork, and luckily the NCAA approved it. It's just the inconsistencies. Another example of a denial, which is the inconsistency here, is Luke Ford. I believe it was in 2021, or sorry, it was 2018. He was a top prospect in class of 2018. He was at Georgia, another Georgia kid. He was looking to transfer from Georgia, top tight end, go to Illinois, be closer to his sick grandfather. He was denied because they said that his hometown was not within was outside of 100 miles of the campus of Champaign. And also, it wasn't his biological grandfather. Can you tell me how disgusted you would be if that's what came back on your denial for hardship? If they said, "Oh no, you're not within an hour and a half of campus," so, and also it's not your real biological grandfather. So, we're going to it's not sorry, your grandpa. It's not your nuclear family. So you're denied. How sick would that make you? But then you see two other kids get it for, one inmate, Tate Martell, not really sure why, and then someone who on the baseball team feels uncomfortable, but they get immediately football eligibility. Like, once again, I'm not blaming the kids. I'm blaming the NCAA in their inconsistent decision making. And now we're in an age of the portal where kids automatically get a year eligibility, and then they get the graduate year, and it's like there's so much ambiguity, and we still don't know what the checkboxes are now with what constitutes what they have to investigate in order to get the hardship waiver, and what is the decision making that goes into it. It seems so behind the curtain, the decision making process, that why did Tez Walker not get approved for his when his looks like a clear case of yes, you should be approved? Same with Darrell Jackson. Okay, he moved twice, but is he clearly not showing hardship? Why did it not get approved? Why did it get denied? NCAA, if you don't want people pissed, give us the clear checkboxes. Show us why that fourth checkbox on the spreadsheet didn't get denied. Show us why it's taking you 3 to 4 months to go through this checklist and deny it 2 to 3 weeks before kickoff. Tell us, show us these pages, 90 pages worth of investigation. Because I'm telling you, it doesn't take the damn FBI to figure out if these kids should be approved or not. It doesn't. It doesn't. You are not looking out for the welfare of these student athletes. You're not. Because now, Darrell Jackson, Tez Walker probably has more upside at this point in his career, potentially a top 50, top 100 player in the NFL by scouts' opinion. Are those players going to lose out on NIL opportunities now because they can't play, they can't be on the field, they can't make the most of their likeness? Are they going to lose out potentially on supporting themselves, supporting their families, supporting their draft eligibility? Is the NCAA caring about that in their decision making? No, they don't care about that. So the NCAA isn't looking out for the student athlete, are they? Are they? Interesting. Now, looking forward, and let us know. Let me know in the comments how you feel about this decision making. Do you think how do we fix this? How does the NCAA fix itself? Do you agree with the decisions, right or wrong? And how do you think, can this be fixed? Can the NCAA fix this at all? Or do you think it's too far gone? Now, how does this affect Florida State specifically in losing Darrell Jackson? I think luckily for Florida State, within bringing in Braden Fisk, you got Daniel Lyons, you got Farmer, you got a lot of guys who are looking to play, and you have, some transfers you brought in. You have depth in the line. I don't think it's going to affect you wins and losses wise yet. Now, if the doomsday scenario happens where you lose 2 or 3 guys early, that's when you could start to get concerned. Or if it takes Braden Fisk 4 or 5 weeks to get acclimated to this top level, because remember, he's a Western Michigan kid, took Jared Verse a couple of weeks to get acclimated to this level. It's a higher level of competition, Now, Jared Verse had to come from FCS. I'm not saying Western Michigan's FCS, but it's definitely not the top level of FBS. I'm thinking it's going to take, it's going to take him a couple of weeks to get used to the size, especially starting with LSU. So, if you avoid injury from key guys, I think you should be okay. But I do think it's a blow because Darrell Jackson is a sizable man in the middle of the field. But I do not believe, unless you get catastrophic injuries in the middle of your line, it shouldn't affect you win-loss wise. Luckily, you do have talented depth that you should be able to rotate in and out. And if Brandon Fisk does live up to his potential, you should be able to make up for it. But let me know in the comments, what do you think? Do you think this does affect their ACC aspirations? Do you think, this was going to be the piece to really rotate off of Fabian Levin and really push that interior line to create pressure? I do think it's a loss because I would have loved to see the potential of Darrell Jackson and his impact this season. And it just stinks for him as a player. But the things out from camp are great. That he's still working hard. He's still developing. I still think he'll stick around, develop as a person, develop as a player, and he'll be, he'll still continue to grow, and he'll come back even stronger next year. So, but let us know in the chat what you think. What will happen? Can the NCAA fix this? Do you think there's any chance either of these players win on an appeal? I don't think that'll happen. I don't think the NCAA cares about appeals. But let us know in the chat what you think of all this. And once again, I don't blame any of the players who have won or lost appeals. I don't blame players at all. I blame the NCAA for their inconsistent, non-transparent decision making. Let us know in the chat. Have a great one, and we'll talk about. We'll see you on the next show. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.